This section is all about genetics and we'll be covering everything from what an exon is to the dystrophin gene itself. This can be complicated and different to experience you've had or things you've been taught. So if you have any questions, please get in contact with us. If you find these videos useful, then we have more on our YouTube channel and website for you to go through at your own pace and leisure. We encourage you to share these as much as you can. Thank you.
Hey Sophia, so in one of our videos we have discussed what a DNA is, and we have sort of spoken about that DNA is made up of genetic letters. We've talked about what a gene is, but we haven't exactly explained what exons and introns are in genetics, because one of the first things that happens is when you go to the clinician or when you get the diagnosis for Duchenne muscular dystrophy, you're actually told that at this exon something is changed or mutated or deleted, and that's how you get your diagnosis. But if we don't actually understand what an exon is, that information isn't very useful for us. So I think it's really important to understand when we're talking about Duchenne muscular dystrophy, what exons are, as we understand that the DMD gene, or the recipe manual for making dystrophin, has 79 exons in it. So would you want to elaborate on what exons and introns are?
Yes, Marine, I think that's a very good point. So basically, exons and introns are fascinating components of our genetic code, like our unique code that shows what we are made of, how we look, our unique features. So exons are parts of RNA. And in one of our videos, we were talking that if DNA is a closed book, then we open this book and we see the pages, and open book will be RNA. So exons, they are coding elements, so they code for proteins, and introns are non-coding elements, meaning they don't have the genetic information to code for the protein. They play an essential role in gene expression and protein synthesis, of course.
Yeah, that's true. So we'll try to add an image to the screen to facilitate sort of the understanding. But basically, DNA, you're right. It's like a closed book. It's a double helix. So all the alphabets are inside it. So it's a closed book. It's a double helix. But RNA is a single strand. The book is open. Now you can read it. All the alphabets are out. And that, the RNA, you're right, is the one that's actually has introns and exons in it, the regions, or as it spans out. When the RNA is transcribed, we say, which is when the DNA, the double helix, is opened up and a single strand is left behind, that is RNA. It's a really long molecule that contains both exons and introns. And exons and introns are just a way of explaining the regions of the RNA. So I always give the analogy of, if you want to say something's wrong with my head hurts, my neck hurts, my ear hurts, my shoulders hurt, you could just say something's wrong with my upper torso. Or if you want to say my knees hurt, my toes hurt, my legs hurt, you could say something's wrong with my lower torso. That's just simplifying little things and just explaining the regions of the body. Similarly, in the RNA, we say this is exon and this is intron. That's just explaining the regions. The genetic alphabets are still there. You're just dividing into regions, because it'd be very difficult diagnostically and clinically when we go into the clinic for them to actually talk about little alphabets about what's going on. So we just say your exon 1 has a deletion or a mutation. And you're absolutely correct in saying that, the actual exon is the one that holds the information, the key, the recipe to making the actual protein, dystrophin, for example. But the introns are like non-coding regions. In my bachelor's, and even now, it's a term, we call them junk DNA. They have other crucial role in genetics, but not in making the protein itself. So before, when the DNA is changed to RNA, there is an interesting part that happens during the RNA processing, which is when the introns are kicked out, or they're excised out, they're cut out. So you're only left behind with the exons. And these are the ones who hold the recipe to actually making the protein. They have the information. Does that Make sense?
Yeah, that's a beautiful explanation. I want just to sum up and say, so exons, they are the important segments that stay in our mRNA. And as you mentioned, introns are removed. So it's basically like a selective editing process. And I must say that our body is a very, very smart machine, let's put it this way. And it has genetic scissors that know exactly where to cut and to remove the introns from the sequence. So for example, if we are talking about the book again, so DNA is a closed book, then we open this book and we get our RNA. So the body gets the genetic scissors and it knows exactly where to cut the blank pages that don't have any information, they don't have any recipe, and it cuts out the blank pages, and we end up with the pages that do have the information, do have the recipe, and this recipe is for the protein making.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's so crucial to remember that, and I keep kind of emphasizing on this, that the exons are the ones that hold the code or the recipe for making proteins, or bringing together amino acids, which are building blocks of proteins, essentially little beads that come together and make a long chain of protein. And it's the exons that hold it. So it's very important in the body to actually get rid of the introns before we get the proteins made. So that is a very smart, preserved process in the body where the introns are excised out, so they don't interfere with the actual protein making element. And the introns have other functions. We don't need to go delve into that, but the exons are the ones that are left behind, and they're the ones that make protein. And I think that's the important message here.
Yeah, and to be honest, it's a beautiful process, and it's incredible how it's all done in our body. And just to elaborate a bit more about it, so when the introns are cut out and the exons come together, this process is called splicing. So basically they splice to each other, they stick to each other after the scissors cut out the introns of the sequence. And in that case, they can make a protein, they can make our end product.
Yeah, that's the understanding between, and the distinction between exons and introns is very crucial in understanding the genetic code and the process of protein synthesis. It's fascinating how nature has developed such intricate mechanisms, and I think that's really key to understanding, because when we walk into a clinic or we get the diagnosis, we're always talking in the language of exons. And I think it's really, really crucial to understand what they are. They are essentially DNA, but they're just regions of DNA. And that's what we're talking about. There are 79 regions or exons that come together, or puzzle pieces that come together to actually make up the dystrophin gene, the recipe manual.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just must say that this interplay between exons and introns is basically one of the wonders of nature. It's these intricacies that make a study of genes and their expression so captivating.
Absolutely, yeah. And then genetics as complex as it is, I mean, I find it, think about it, there are so many recipe manuals in our body that make us who we are. A recipe manual for my color of my eyes, my hair, whether it's going to be curly or straight. And we are literally just talking about one recipe manual. We're talking about the recipe manual for the dystrophin protein, so you can appreciate how complex the puzzle is and how important it is for these exons or puzzle pieces of the gene to be fitting together exactly as they should, and also appreciate how detrimental it could be if something goes wrong in that puzzle piece, or a puzzle piece does not fit. And it really makes you appreciate the kind of amazing diversity of life and how we are all so similar in terms of we both have two eyes, a nose, a mouth, but how unique and different we are at the same time as well.
Yeah, I couldn't have said better.
Here at Action Duchenne, we are committed to inform, but also support you through your Duchenne journey. If you'd like to talk about anything raised in this video, please feel free to contact us on 07535 498 506. Or alternatively, email us at info@actionduchenne.org. Thank you.